All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Morning Cafe. Being a Thursday, it's Health Thursday. So let's shift gears and talk matters health. We're focusing on hypertension, and the question we're asking you online today is, many young people believe hypertension only affects older adults. And in your opinion, what contributes most to high blood pressure? Now, 1 in 4 Kenyans, adults, that is around 24 to 28%, have high blood pressure. Similar to the global trend, but most Kenyans or most people don't know that they actually have hypertension. So that's what we're talking about. What are the signs that you can look out for to take care of yourself? Because there are other conditions that come about with hypertension. My guest in studio is Dr. Victor Ngani. He's a medical director at Dr. Rasik Kantaria, Jalaram Medical Services. Atatufunza zaidi kuhusu hypertension. And of course, we welcome you to be part of this conversation on our socials. TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube and on X. At TV47 Digital, you can tag me at @_did and we'll be sure to read your feedback. And if you want, you can also call in live to ask Daktari a question. Karibu sana Daktari, good to see you again.
Asante sana.
Talk to us about hypertension. Are we dealing with a crisis in the country?
Short answer, yes.
How so?
Partly because it is one of the most prevalent diseases in the country. Mm-hmm. As you correctly said, about up to 29% of adults in Kenya, that's a big number, like 8 million people actually have hypertension. And that's the same trend globally. About 1.4 billion people have hypertension, I'm telling you. Mm-hmm. Now, out of these people who have this hypertension, very few actually know that they have it. Actually, of those who know that they have it, less than a quarter are on treatment. And as a result, we are having a huge burden of disease. There are people who are high-flying. I don't know if you've ever heard of somebody who's like a go-getter, someone who's high-flying. They work 60-hour weeks. Yeah. They're in their prime, about 40-something or 50. Then suddenly one day they just collapse in the street and they have a stroke, and that's the end of whatever it is they're doing. And this happens over and over again. So hypertension is one of those diseases we call a silent killer, because many people expect disease to give you a symptom, but hypertension doesn't. By the time you get a symptom, it's already too late, and some of those symptoms are catastrophic. So yes, it's a crisis, not just in Kenya, but globally.
All right, but when we talk about hypertension, what's the difference between hypertension and high blood pressure? Because why can't we just call it HBP? Okay. And we now terming it as hypertension instead.
Okay, for the purpose of this kind of a show, I don't want us to create any distinction there. I want us to understand that your blood pressure is elevated. You can call it high blood pressure or hypertension, but essentially what you're saying is that your blood pressure is too high. Maybe I should say what that is first. Number one, your heart has to pump blood through your system. You have a network of veins. There are people who say that all veins and arteries and capillaries, blood vessels, a broad network. So your blood, your heart is the pump that circulates blood to all the tissues. Now, when it pushes, when it contracts, it raises your pressure a certain level, and when it relaxes, pressure goes down. That is why your blood pressure has two readings, the upper one and the lower one. Upper one being called systole, lower one diastole, but just not the two. So I'll tell you, for example, your blood pressure is 120/80. 120 is when the heart is beating and so on. Now, there's a level of pressure that will be too high for your piping system and the blood vessels. Let's say you have your farm, you're irrigating. If you put a certain level of pressure, it can even burst those pipes. The same thing with your life. So we've changed a little bit the thresholds. In the past, we used to say that when the upper value goes above 140, it starts to cause damage. Now we are saying that we don't want the upper value to go above 130 and the lower value to go above 80. That's where we are heading. And most people actually are quite a number of people, actually 1 in 4, almost 1 in 4 Kenyan adult male people have pressures that are high and they don't know. Now, when your pressure is elevated, a couple of things are happening. Number one, it's damaging the blood vessels at very, very minute levels. You'll not notice because it takes many years. Which blood vessels? Every single blood vessel across your body. Number two, it's taking them to the gym. If I want to build muscles, which I do, I need to go to the gym. If I go to the gym often, I'm going to build bulk. Same thing happens to blood vessels. But when you do that, those vessels become very stiff. When they become stiff, the heart has to work harder to overcome that. So it becomes a very, what we call it's a chain that just gets worse and worse, and you don't want that to happen. So your pressure goes up, causes a lot of damage to your organs, and that becomes a problem.
So at what numbers should someone start worrying? Is it the 120 or is it the 140? So that nikienda pale and I see my blood pressure, they say it's at this particular number, then I should start worrying about my blood pressure.
So the simple number that we have used for a very long time, for decades, has been 140, on the upper one being above 140, the lower being above 90. And mind you, I need to be clear that you need to have rested. I mean, if you've been running around, you've been walking about, then you take your pressure, of course it will be elevated a little bit. But we say that if you've been rested and your pressure goes above 140, 100%, you should be concerned. But now we are saying that when your pressure goes above 130, there is significant concern as well. You need to know that you're already at a different level, because the American Heart Association has changed the normal values. Now we say normal is actually less than 120 systolic, and 80 and below, less than 80 and below on the lower value. So anything above 120, but the new classification is called elevated, but not high blood pressure, not hypertension yet, elevated blood pressure. So you should just be cautious and begin to take values. So for simplicity, I will tell the public out there, if the upper value hits 140 at any stage, please take it very seriously. That's where damage becomes critical, becomes significant and incremental. If you see you're between 130 and 140, talk to your doctor. Please be aware. So at this level, when you see anything in the region of 130, 140, there should be some concern.
So we're talking about 29% of adults who have hypertension. But now we have already laid out that percentage of people who have it. Then what percentage of people have it but don't actually know that they have it?
So globally, the people who have high blood pressure and don't know is about 44%. That's globally. But in Kenya, it's much worse. Just about 30% of Kenyan people have high blood pressure and know. And it's confounding because some of us are afraid of needles, so you don't go to hospital because of needles, and some tests take a long time. But blood pressure is one of the simplest and most affordable ways, detection processes. Just walk in, they put that thing on your hand, in about 2 minutes you have your value. And it's available almost everywhere, including, can I say, government facilities at the lowest level. So it's very surprising that the majority of people who have high blood pressure don't even know.
I hear it's even in chemists now.
It's in chemists. People have it in their homes. Talking about chemists, in your homes, every single medical camp. If you go to a supermarket today, you'll find a healthcare provider with a blood pressure machine doing a medical camp. It's everywhere. But because it's a silent killer, we've not understood how serious it is. If I was speaking about, COVID time, talk about COVID, talk about things like dramatic diseases. People take those seriously. But high blood pressure, whose consequences are much more significant, you don't pay attention. So if you're listening to me, I really should even talk to the people directly, tell them that please, of all the things we've spoken about, including cancers, you want to pay attention to high blood pressure, because this is a real crisis. I'm saying that if in a room, today you're at work today, and in your office you're 10 guys, at least 2 of you, statistically, maybe more, actually have high blood pressure.
Unknowingly.
And I think you started by asking the question whether it's just young people or old people.
Yes,
no, it's not. Actually, 17% of people below the age of 29, adults below the age of 29, have high blood pressure. Although that number goes up dramatically. Above 60, it's almost 58%. Like in a group of people over 60, every one person has a blood pressure problem.
So we're talking about 140 being a worrying number. 130 should also make somebody worried or get somebody worried. But now, what is the perfect number that somebody would look at and say, well, I'm safe here?
Less than 120, the upper one. Less than 80, the lower one. That's the perfect number. And there is consensus there. Both the American system and European system and Kenyan system, that is the consensus, that your pressure should be below 120 upper one and below 80 lower one. That's perfect.
So anything that goes below 80 is also quite risky?
Above 80, okay, especially above 90. So the magic number is 140, 90. At that level, you can expect that your vessels undergoing damage. Just know that even if you can't see it, there's that kind of damage that takes time, many years, but it's definitely there.
And this is for kids and adults, or it varies by with age?
Actually, in this conversation, we are talking about adults.
Yes.
Because kids have much smaller blood vessels. So whereas I tell you a blood pressure of 120 over 80 is fantastic, for a child, 120 may actually be almost crisis level. So this conversation doesn't apply to children. This is adults only, because children have a different way of checking blood pressure, depending on the age. Then there are certain percentiles that we
So just to clear the air, can kids also get high blood pressure?
Definitely. Definitely kids can get high blood pressure, but then their pressure measurements are very specific and definitely lower than the pressure measurements that we have for adults. So when you speak about 120 over 80, please note, I'm talking about adults only. Kids, that's a completely different conversation with many dynamics. In this instance, please take note, you're talking about adults. Although it is children above age 13, then these numbers tend to apply to some degree. But anybody below 13 years of age, then 100% don't apply this to those children. Their parameters are very different. In fact, you may have a child with a blood pressure of 115, and it's an emergency. You have to run to.
Oh, now we're trying to take care of ourselves, of course, just to cushion ourselves from blood pressure, if at all it goes high. But now it's a silent killer, as we call it. Maybe there are some of the signs and symptoms that you might have noticed, as a doctor, that you would tell somebody that if you see this and this, then you're at high risk, come to the hospital. Well, aside from, of course, they will have to test their blood pressure, but even before they test it and get it at that 130, 140, then what are some of the signs and symptoms just to look out for?
Okay. Which camera should I look at?
Any that you want. Which one do you want to look at?
Let me look at that camera.
Yes.
So the signs and symptoms of high blood pressure, the ones you should look out for, there's none. By the time you get a sign or a symptom from high blood pressure, it's too late. You're at risk. Blood pressure has no signs and symptoms. I often hear people say that I get a headache, I feel my ear. By the time you get symptoms for high blood pressure, it's too late. In fact, I'll tell you what it is. There is another level of, we've spoken about 140, there's another level, which is called hypertensive crisis. This is when your blood pressure is, the upper one is above 180, or the lower one is above 120. Now here, you can actually get symptoms because you're almost getting a stroke or something of that nature. So by the time you're getting symptoms, you are in a problem you can't understand. Either it's an emergency or an urgency. Now, if you have what is called a hypertensive emergency, it means that your pressure is above 180 systolic or above 120 diastolic, and it's affecting what we call the end organs. Your brain, your heart, there's a symptom somewhere that you are at immediate risk. In fact, if you go to a hospital in an hypertensive emergency, you're going to HD straight away. In an urgency, the difference is that the symptoms, the organs are not affected at that particular moment, but your pressure is very high. So please note, high blood pressure does not give you symptoms until it's already too late for you. So don't wait for symptoms, get it checked all the time.
Let's hear what the people are saying with regard to a conversation of the day, hypertension. And the question you're asking is, many young people believe hypertension only affects older adults. And in your opinion, what contributes most to high blood pressure? Fred, what are the people saying?
All right, and this is what the people are saying with regard to hypertension or high blood pressure, because it's a subject that many do not understand. At Ogechib, he says, just diet and lifestyle. Hata mimi, I was shocked when I was diagnosed with it. Someone who's actually been diagnosed with hypertension. Someone else? At Monique N7 says, spending lots of time seated and lack of enough sunshine. Probably Daktari will have to clarify on this and tell us if this is a fact, that spending lots of time seated and lack of sunshine cannot give you high blood pressure. At AK_Endere says, hii kitu ilinishika at 24 years old. That's quite young. Stress and depression aren't relatives to health. Again, another question, Daktari, the relationship between stress and high blood pressure. Let's get someone on phone, all the way from Kayole. Peter from Kayole, good morning, Peter. What do you have to say about the conversation this morning?
Yeah, good morning, and my name is Kika. I'm from Kwadio, Kayole. But the doctor has said there are no clear symptoms on hypertension. Would you please explain maybe the foods you are supposed to do, what you are supposed to do to avoid when the numbers goes high, please, especially about the food. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that question, and Daktari will be answering that. What is someone supposed to do, Daktari, when you feel you need or your pressure has gone up? What are you supposed to do immediately? Yes. Do we have any more feedback from online? Yes, let's sample some more. And this is Coach Sweeney at Sweeney MT. 1, sedentary lifestyle. They don't want to keep fit and live a healthy lifestyle. Secondly, their plates are entirely junk and processed food from Monday to Monday because organic food is not insta-worthy. It's not giving. Niendelea ama nianze kusema during our days. Huyu lazima ni millennial. Lakini yes, some truth there. Bro from Siaya at Sako. Pombe cheap and fake cigara. Oh, I don't know if the correlation between that, Daktari will be clarifying. Bangi. Too much masturbation. I don't know. Zero exercise. Too much of social media. etc. Daktari, you will really need to clarify the correlation between any of these and hypertension. All right. One more from online on Facebook. Marie Mudzo Grande says, lifestyle. Chiku Chikaya says stress. Good girl says it's poverty. Probably poverty causes stress. Cornel Swarwa, diet. Kenny Reri, lifestyle. Joe Winey, weight. Another thing, yes, weight, lifestyle. These are things that Daktari will be talking to after when we go back to him. A lot of myths and misunderstandings, Daktari, on what exactly causes high blood pressure. Wycliffe Musonye says if someone is stressed of difficult situations and overworking of brains is experienced, then it grows to depression. It affects the immune system of the body. The blood starts pumping abnormal. That's when high blood pressure now evolves. Salasia wa Olayo says, just tell your heart this statement. Dear heart, please stop getting emotional. Your job is to pump blood. That's it. All right, back to you, Dida and Daktari. I'm sure there's a lot that the doctor has to explain, especially from the views online.
All right, and I don't know where we should start, Daktari. Is it about the issue of sunshine that we've heard about, masturbation, we've heard about people are just sitting down, alcohol, bangi, which is which?
Okay, so I'm going to just skip the first two that you've mentioned because those are not the sunshine and whatnot. Yeah. Those are not probably, there's an indication, like sunshine, if you're not out in the sun, it means that you're probably sitting indoors and your also vitamin D is going to be low and so on. But I must say I'm very impressed by the audience out there, like all the comments you're hearing. This is the first time I'm sitting in and like the public is thoroughly educated. I think Kenya has really sharp people. I mean, what you hear, I think the one that I'll definitely disagree with is the concept of cheap alcohol, because it insinuates that expensive alcohol is better. No, it is not. Yeah. It's just as bad. And definitely there's no type of cigar that is good for you. I think this is thematic. Every time I'm here, I'll talk about smoking cigarettes. I mean, it's not healthy. So a lot of the things that the Kenyans have listed is actually on point. You know, stress and anxiety, all these things, what they do is that they create an increase in certain hormones like adrenaline. And what these hormones do is they normally make your vessels a bit tighter. You know, so you're constantly in that state and your heart has to beat more. So that kind of anxiety is not good for you, for sure. Sedentary lifestyle, people have spoken about this. So a couple of things happen. You have less activity, you have fewer feel-good hormones, nitric oxide levels go down, you increase weight, you know, and your heart has to work so much harder. When you speak about junk food, big conversation now about magnesium. You know, back in the day when you had whole grain and these natural foods, leafy vegetables, they have magnesium, which is very useful for lowering your blood pressure. Now you don't get that. In fact, you can be having the exact same grain, but it's processed and it takes away all these good nutrients. You know, and other lifestyle diseases that come about, maybe you have some gout, uric acid, lowering the ability of the blood vessels to dilate. You have these foods that increase insulin, you know, in your body, or increase insulin resistance or cause diabetes. High insulin resistance, diabetes, all these things will cause more sodium, and cause your pressure to go up. So I agree with most of what has been said. And then Peter from Kayole, brilliant question. I don't know what people have been having this generation. I mean, maybe it's a good year.
Yeah.
But that's one of the best questions I've had, because we are saying it doesn't have symptoms. So what do you do when your pressure is up?
Yes.
You know, the way to know, Peter, number one, get checked regularly. If you've found out you have high blood pressure, I even recommend just buy that machine. I think now the prices have come down a bit, still a bit expensive, about between 3,000 and 5,000, but it's cheaper that way because you can take your pressure as many times as you want. So check your pressure regularly. If you have high blood pressure, at least once a month, get it checked. If you can check more frequently, go ahead and do that and keep it recorded. And the idea is you want to achieve what is called target. Keep your pressure to the level that your doctor tells you need to get it to. So if you're consistent, let's say maybe just from diet and exercise, your pressure comes to normal, then you keep checking to ensure you've maintained it. If you need medication, then again, we do what is called titration. Sometimes you get a certain drug added, you check your pressure if it's gotten to the level that you want, or if it's not, if it's still high, you increase. If it's coming too far down, you reduce until you get your constant. But then you keep checking regularly. So don't wait for symptoms, keep checking regularly. And the main point here is, if you achieve target, then you don't need to worry.
What's the target to achieve?
Well, I've told you what it is now. In terms of medication, sometimes we say that once it gets below 130, for sure, you don't need to worry about it. And there are doctors who say that if it doesn't get above 140, maybe there's a conversation about the risk versus benefit of medication, if medication is what you're looking at. But you also have all these lifestyle modifications that you can put in place to bring your pressure down. Now, if you're not using medication, if you can achieve pressures systolic 120 and below, that is fantastic. From adjusting your diet, your lifestyle, removing all these vices that may be coming in the food that you eat. You know, there's this diet we call the DASH diet, which is basically dietary approach to stopping hypertension. Leafy vegetables, you know, fruits, so on, those kinds of things. If those things can bring your pressure down to the level where it's normal, it's okay. But medication, talk to your doctor, because there's medication we have to weigh the risk and the benefit. Definitely above 140, medicines must be part of your regime if you can bring it down.
So you're talking about conditions that are causing hypertension. Of course, we've talked about diabetes as well. But can hypertension cause other conditions now?
Absolutely. And several. So the most significant ones are the end organ damages that occur from high blood pressure. So what happens is that you want your blood vessels to remain sort of smooth, and every time your heart pumps, they sort of, you know, go up and down. If you feel your pulse, by the way, just here at the wrist, you'll feel it beating. And that's because the vessels are expanding and coming down. When your pressure is very high, it causes damage to these vessels, very small, very minute damage. And what then happens is that those vessels develop what are called, you know, there are certain things that come in to heal the damaged area, and they cause sort of scars and areas where you can have a bit of fat deposited. And when you have those kinds of swellings, it narrows your blood vessel. And this is the kind of thing that can cause a heart attack, can cause a stroke, can cause kidney failure, and can cause your eye, you can actually go blind. So the number one cause of kidney failure, which is what we spoke about last time, is actually hypertension. If you could take away hypertension, more than half the kidney cases you have today would not be there, the kidney failure cases. If you found out you have high blood pressure early and controlled it, you can avoid kidney failure. Blindness, big cause. Heart failure and heart attack, those are two different things. You can reduce that significantly. Strokes. And the saddest one, you know, I used to work in ICU, and one of the saddest things I would see is this high flyer, family man of, you know, men are slightly more affected. Brought in, he never knew he had high blood pressure, and he has a stroke that we can't save him from. You know, he's perfectly healthy otherwise, other than that he has a stroke. So all these are all possibilities. And then there's a very close relationship between hypertension and what we call the metabolic syndromes, things like diabetes. They're closely related. They walk hand in hand in many instances.
All right, now concerning the health complications that hypertension causes, how long can these symptoms go undetected? Like say somebody has come with a complication, say even a heart attack, even stroke. How long can it go and detect that this was probably caused by high blood pressure?
It depends. So something like heart attack and a stroke is immediate. You can't go.
It's standard.
I mean, that one you'll figure out immediately. But the slow grind that causes kidney failure, that can take way more than 10 years, sometimes even 20 years before you actually get into kidney failure. And especially because kidney failure itself, you'll not detect it. It takes time before you realize you actually have kidney failure because your body is resilient. Your body can accommodate a lot of pressure. It sort of adjusts. Your heart becomes bigger to pump better. It becomes thicker to pump better. But at some point, it gives up. It's like blowing a balloon. The balloon should be this size. You keep blowing it, it expands, accommodates. At some point, it becomes so big, it can't take it anymore, it bursts. That's what happens. When it bursts, there's no repair. So a lot of the symptoms we face is when our body's ability to adjust and accommodate this extra pressure that you're giving it exceeds our capacity. And at that time, like that balloon that has burst, you can't really repair it. You can only mitigate, start probably dialysis. And if you're lucky, you don't get a stroke or a heart attack, then you may have a chance to get through. But if you get something as severe as a bleeding stroke, for example, it can be much, much worse.
So you say men are mostly affected, by hypertension. I'd just love to know what's different between the men and the women. What are men doing that, maybe women are not doing, women are protecting themselves so that they are not mostly affected when it comes to hypertension?
Okay. The difference is very small, by the way. So when I say that, maybe it doesn't mean ladies are not affected. The difference is very, very small. But two things that one would think about. First is genetics, but secondly, stress is a very big factor in hypertension. Yes. And then, of course, the other habits, lifestyle habits, you'll generally find traditionally in Kenya, men have been drinking more, smoking more, these kinds of habits, those kinds of things that generally don't add value. That's men have that tendency a little bit more.
So we come down to smoking, alcohol also being an issue in this. So what are some of the myths that people often we've normalized about hypertension that maybe you'd like to demystify?
Well, I think the biggest myth about hypertension is that when you have a headache, your pressure is high. By the time you get a headache from high blood pressure, you're at risk of a stroke anymore.
When you feel a fever, maybe.
Yeah, so whatever symptom that you associate, there are people who say this: I know when my pressure is high. If you know when your pressure is high, you know when the world is going to end. You know that because you're psychic. We've had this conversation with very many patients, and I show them their pressure, and they say, oh, it can't be that high. I don't feel. No, you don't feel because it doesn't have those kinds of symptoms. So that's the biggest myth, I think, in relation to high blood pressure. The second thing is that only salt causes it. Actually, no. Salt is just one factor. There are many, many other factors that contribute to this. The other myth, I think, is that it's for older people. We've said 17% of people, adults under the age of 29, actually have high blood pressure. Those are some myths that we really want to pay attention to. So, and checking is very easy. Are you part of this 17%? That means that if you're young, you sit in a room, 5 of you, less than 30, one of you probably has high blood pressure. Yeah.
You're talking about some of the factors that cause hypertension, and you've mentioned something quite interesting, salt. So just break it down for us, some of the causes and, of course, factors that contribute to high blood pressure and hypertension.
So actually, I should have mentioned this, that broadly, 2 categories of high blood pressure. What we call primary or essential, which is where more than 90% of high blood pressure lies. What's happening here is that genetic factors and these environmental factors and lifestyle issues cause your pressure to be up. But there's another form called secondary hypertension. Secondary hypertension is where there's actually something going on in your body, some other disease that is causing your pressure to be up. Say, for example, your thyroid hormone is up. Thyroid hormone is going to cause catecholamines. Okay. It's going to cause other things that will cause your pressure to go up. Maybe you have an issue with your kidneys, or you have a developmental issue, the aorta, the big blood vessel, something called a coarctation, or the arteries to, there are quite a number of things here that we look at. Now, any of these, some hormonal issues, diseases, all these things are secondary hypertension, and they can actually cause your pressure to go up. So whenever you have high blood pressure at whatever age, the first thing is to check for what we call secondary causes. Check your thyroid hormone, check your kidneys, do an ultrasound, collect 24-hour urine to look for certain things we call catecholamines. All these things are very important and should be standard. Why? Because for secondary hypertension, you can actually treat. You can remove the cause and remove hypertension. That's curable in many instances. If it's, they are rectifiable. But for 90% of the cases, then that is not the case at all. You can, if you pick it up early before the damage is permanent, you can actually make some adjustments and bring your pressure down. For example, that alone can bring your pressure down by 11 millimeters of mercury. So if you're at let's say 131, and you do proper DASH diet is a dietary approach to stopping hypertension, then you can actually bring your pressure to 119 just by proper diet only. So those kinds of conversations are very important. Now, the other things we talk about then are the risk factors, and we've mentioned most of them. There are those risk factors you can do nothing about. One being male, two, though women, in fact, I should remove that because both men and women suffer hypertension significantly. Second is age. As you grow older, your arteries are going to stiffen. Those are things you can't do anything about. Your genetic makeup. If there are people in your family who have had hypertension, there's a chance that you too could get hypertension. Those are not things that are really within your control. But then there are modifiable risk factors. And they're the same things. When we sit here to talk about diabetes, we'll mention the same things. Kidney disease, cancer, hypertension, they're the same things. Excessive alcohol, not cheap alcohol, excessive alcohol. It doesn't mean that if you buy alcohol for 10,000, then it's any better for you. Don't smoke. Let's take a bit of exercise. Life has become such that we leave the house in the morning, you're in the car or in public transport, you get to the office, you're sitting the whole day, in the afternoon you're getting back. Find time for exercise. Check what you're eating. Processed foods, go back to natural brown ugali, eat some skuma wiki, have some vegetables. These kinds of, whole grains, these kinds of foods would actually be useful. So there's a lot that we can do within ourselves. Managing stress in hypertension is super important. I like what the gentleman said, that the heart is for pumping blood. It does not stress the heart too much. Of course, I'm sure he's saying it in jest, but it's important. And especially the men, there is need for us to pay attention to mental health. In the past, it looked weak to seek help when you're struggling with something. Now you really should. And don't turn to alcohol for managing stress. It's actually a bigger problem. It's like having the devil bargaining with you, saying, I'll help you take away this, becomes a new devil you can't really get rid of.
So when you talk about genetic predisposition, like if maybe you have hypertension, then it's likely that your child would also have it. But when a woman is pregnant, would it affect an unborn child, such that it will be transferred to the unborn child?
No, not that way. And I'm glad you've mentioned it. There's another kind of high blood pressure that happens in pregnancy. It's called preeclampsia, the eclampsia pattern. And normally at delivery, that pressure comes back to normal for most people. But no, you cannot transfer high blood pressure to the child in this way. It's just that genetic predisposition is a factor. It means that there's a risk that you could have high blood pressure. Of course, it's not a single factor. Normally, if your pressure goes up, it's not just that. There could be something else. Environmental, the obesity, could be the stresses, how you respond to stress, your environment, your food, many other factors come into play.
So if you say that, for example, with preeclampsia, that pressure would go down during delivery, then somebody might wonder now, even if for any other person now, is one high reading enough to diagnose hypertension, such that maybe you test yourself, you get 130, you get 140, then maybe after 2 days, then you test again and you see you're at 119. Is that one supposed to make somebody, feel sasa ni mimi naisha?
Good question, and thank you for that, because you're going to miss it. So the recommendation is that you need to take at least 2 readings, at least 2 weeks apart. And these readings should be, and by the way, there are some values that are so high, we probably will take action. You have to see the doctor right then. But if you've taken a reading, it's like 140. First, within that time, a second reading should be taken. And I recommend that your feet should be on the ground, you should be sitting comfortably, your arm at the correct level. the way the cuff is put is also important. And many times the cuff covers, it's not placed correctly. There's a mark that shows where the artery should be, sort of the center. And then you should leave about 1 centimeter between the elbow where it flexes and the bottom of the cuff, leave 1 centimeter. Then just relax and have the pressure taken. Then you can repeat this 2 weeks later. Again, calm down, rest at least. If your pressure is high, rest 30 minutes, have a check, watch your favorite TV show, and then watch TV 47. Then come and come check your pressure again. There's something called white coat hypertension, where there are people who, when they go to the hospital, they see the doctor, they see the big machine, they begin palpitating, and the pressure will be up. They don't have high blood pressure. But when the doctor is checking, their pressure is always up. For these people, the recommendation, check it for yourself at home. And there's something else you can do. It's called ambulatory blood pressure. Ambulatory meaning that you put the cuff on you and you go home and we actually take readings. At some point, you'll forget that you have it and your pressure. We can actually see what your pressure looks like, normal.
And I saw somewhere that people who are obese or people who are, just bigger are more susceptible to hypertension. And then now people are saying that if you are slim, I would use myself as an example, then maybe we are not that susceptible to hypertension. Is that true?
Obesity is a risk factor, no doubt. So, but being slim is just one risk factor. Did you hear me say many other risk factors? So all those factors are come into play.
Yes.
But yes, obesity is one risk factor for many reasons. Number one, it causes insulin resistance, more weight, the body needs to work a little bit more. Many other factors are involved in this. Yes, it is one of the factors. And in fact, just reducing weight alone can lower your pressure significantly.
How about slim people? Are we at risk of hypertension?
Of course, you're at risk of hypertension. The only risk factor you don't have is obesity. But look at the others. Age, genetic factors. You have this lifestyle habits. Let me ask you, do you... Okay.
Do I?
Not Anne. Do you take junk food?
I do.
Yeah. Do you know slim people who drink?
I do.
Do you know slim people who smoke?
Yes.
Yeah, there is your answer.
All right. Now, during health visits, Dr. Blood pressure is one of the tests that, are done at the hospital. Then why is it so hard to notice it at early stages?
Because people don't take advantage of those health checkups. Even today, I'm sure that if you walk to some supermarket somewhere, you're going to find there's a medical camp being done. The most basic of them, they have a blood pressure machine there. But you don't take advantage. We normally pass and go on and to the nearest fast food joint. So it's a culture issue. We've not embraced the culture of wellness checks. And if we embrace this culture, we will be much better. If you remember what has been said, 56% globally in the world of people who have high blood pressure know 56%, but in Kenya it's like 30%, meaning that we're doing much worse than the global average. Our health-seeking tendencies is not good because pressure, you don't see how important it is.
So which regions are most affected? Because somebody would say that maybe urban areas, people get these junk foods quite easily as opposed to the rural areas. And some may say that now by that, people living in Nairobi, for example, that hypertension will be higher here. What regions are most affected?
Yeah, but that's actually true, because you see the reality is if you look at people who are getting food from the farm directly, they are grinding their maize at the posho mill. They actually work, the kind of work they do is farm work physically by hand. There are factors there that are real. There are instances where urban populations really are at greater risk. People who have to walk long distances or cycle to where they're going versus someone who gets into the car and walks to the office and sits down through and through. So those factors are actually real. They're not completely picked from the air. They're actually factors that could be. Urban centers where there's a lot of sedentary, people can pay, and there is all this happiness and all this food that is processed. Yeah, that's a factor. Those are risk factors for hypertension.
All right. Let's go back and take a look at what the people are saying online. Our question of the day is, what contributes most to high blood pressure in your opinion? Talk to us, Fred. What are the people saying?
All right, let's take a look at your views online, and quite an insightful conversation here, and the doctor has managed to answer quite a number of your questions. Wycliffe Musonye says, if someone is stressed of difficult situations and overworking of brains is experienced, Then it grows to depression. It affects the immune system of the body. The blood starts pumping abnormal. That's when high blood pressure now evolves, and the doctor agrees with you. Salasia Waolayo says, just tell your heart this statement: dear heart, please stop getting emotional. Your job is to pump blood. That's it. Nathan Kaburu, Guevara KE, cholesterol, artificial processed fats, and lack of physical exercise. That's according to Guevara. Jody Masterpiece Osheniwa Nyamora says, eating junk and irrelevant nutrition. The doctor agrees. Gladys Adhiambo says, unhealthy, oily food and too much salt. Hapo kwa chumvi kwanza, daktari, I think you'll need to clarify. Boma Safidavit, sugar and all its forms. Sugar, salt. MK Moses says, diet and lifestyle. We do have more. Benrea Arab Keter says, when your wife says we need to talk, unapata pressure immediately. On a lighter note there. Francis Kenywa Karanja says, being brought up in violent homes where children are always tensed, working for a hash boss that makes you nervous, and living with a spouse that is always bringing tension at home. Now, this is the second one, yes, quoting marriage as a cause of blood pressure. When you're constantly exposed to financial tension, that's why hypertension in your nervous systems, overburdening unresolved issues over a long time leads to the diagnosis of high blood pressure at the age of 50 and above. Age even younger. Bruno Kabila, pressure from women. Charles Wajohi, fear of the unknown. Kama wanawake wanaleta high blood pressure. Walubengo Barasa, money issues. Mark Kipruto Simbolei, lifestyle. Silvo Shiz says, doing a sales job with targets. Rafael Chai, eating disorders. Michi Kapkoi says, the Russians. Are the Russians? Masi Chepkirui, bankruptcy. Hapo kwa Russians, sijui, I think, ilikuwa shida kidogo, lakini quite a number of Kenyans are fighting in the Russian war as well. Sky Karish, unnecessary use of the heart. The heart was designed to pump blood, but not loving. Okay. Mzalendo says, the cafe you're talking about, taking too much uncooked salt. Reinhard Mioko, supporting Manchester United Football Club. Hapo na agree. Kama director, wewe enda upimwe pressure kwanza. Simon Carter's insulin resistance and lifestyle. Right. Quite a number of people talking about marriage. I don't know, maybe indirectly. Baba Chumba, again, wanawake tuliowaoa. Ali says, high cholesterol levels, they built up in our arteries over a long duration over time, attributed to lifestyle. We only realize it when you go for that checkup. Pressure checked is high. On checking cholesterol, LDL high, total cholesterol is too high. Danstan Omenda says, wanawake. Gifted Hand says, bad communication. With nani? With wanawake, probably. Abdi Jabbar Muhammad, reasons ni zile tu, as a history, lack of enough rainfall, bad roads. Probably these are issues that bring about stress, that Rafael Rotuno says, stress. And Uvare Bright, maisha. Wawero Martin says, fear of unknown, anxiety, stress, not all these things posting here. John Maina, kuaga besha. Nafikiri ni kukosa pesa. Patrick Charo, uchumi. Lenny the Big's medical conditions ain't matters of contribution, it's scientifically proven causes. Ngesa Hillary, junk food, too much carbohydrates and sugar. And I think a lot of this feedback may feel like it's lighthearted, but probably it causes stress as well. Kisa Gabriel says love. Baba June says ngo. Faith J, stress. Dominic CLA, alcohol. Mose, lifestyle, how we live, sedentary lifestyle, what we eat and drink, especially junk food, mental health issues, etc. All right, and that's what we have. Daktari, do you agree with these sentiments?
How much salt is too much salt?
How much salt is too much salt? Incidentally, I know that answer. It's the maximum salt you should take is 2.3 grams, or 2,300 milligrams, which is that's the maximum amount of salt that you should take. A stricter dietary control value puts it at 1.5 grams. Of course, this is in instances where you have a blood pressure, but generally taking less salt is better. Not no salt. I think no salt makes life very unpleasant. And certainly you want to ensure that your salt is cooked. Don't add salt at the table. That's different.
No, the show is still on. But a few minutes will be done.
Between salt and sugar, which one do you think causes more high blood pressure?
I think sugar does, because sugar, we hear it gives people that sugar rush. When you take a lot of sugar, you are so psyched up to do 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so there's a lot of studies now showing that insulin resistance has a huge impact on high blood pressure and high insulin levels. So actually, what you can do without even adjusting your salt intake is to reduce your processed foods and sugars. Someone said sugar in its various forms.
Yeah.
It's not something we've spoken about as healthcare people, our fault. But now you're hearing me say it. Excessive sugar is really, especially processed sugar, is really harmful. Things like fructose, anywhere where you see processed sugar, really big risk, lower that, and also salt to some degree. But it's not all about salt, there are many factors. I want to talk about what Fred was raising. I mean, lots of guys are blaming...
Before you address that, you asked me a question. Salt and sugar, which one is bad?
So traditionally we've said salt, but actually there's evidence that sugar, actually processed sugar especially, has a bigger impact on your pressure today, and you can actually address it faster and more consistently.
All right.
Yeah. So people are blaming the wise,
yes,
whatnot. And I've seen that a lot, where somebody who drinks 8 bottles of beer, has double the size of my tummy, doesn't really do any exercise, and has a wife, blames the wife for high blood pressure.
Yeah.
I want us to note it's multifactorial. The pressure that you're facing is just one, but you're drinking, man, excessively. Okay, where's my helmet? You give me a helmet for saying that. You are not exercising. You have many other issues, but you're latching on the one that's the easy one. What about the women who have high blood pressure? Is it the husbands also who are causing all this? So there's a lot more. Stress is a very big factor, agreed, and I've said it. But remember, there are many factors. So don't focus on the one that's the easiest. Then you'll say, oh, my wife gave me high blood pressure. I see that a lot. Yeah. And often it's erroneous. There are many, many factors. Therein stress is one, but these other factors, you're not playing them. Genetically, your family, you'll see everybody has high blood pressure. It's not because you married your wife that happened. So I want us to also be fair to our partners, because it sounds like a simple thing, but it's a really big issue. There are many people who believe they have high blood pressure because of their spouses. And I want to disabuse us of that notion. It's not entirely true. Yes, stress is a factor, but it's not the only factor. There are many, many factors that come into play.
And how about people who talked about their bosses? There's also somebody who commented about people who've grown up in violent homes get hypertension more. Clarify on that kindly.
Definitely. And all these things that cause stress and, fight and flight, you're always fearful. Whenever you're fearful or anxious, your pressures, the hormones that cause your vessels to constrict go up. And you can be conditioned when you grow up in an unstable home with a lot of violence, then you can actually be in a state where you're constantly fearful. That's a factor, and there'll also be other habits that come into play because of this. So no doubt, that's a contributor. But what I'm saying is there is more than one factor in 90% of the cases. So don't focus on the one that's easy to see. There are many others. So look through the whole thread. People have posted everything there. On the TV47, can I say, X platform. Yes. All the answers are there. So read through. Don't just look at yours where you said, say, let's say lifestyle or sugar or salt. Everything is there. It's diet, it's exercise, it's alcohol, it's cigarettes, it's stress. All these things contribute.
Is it reversible? That is something that people would want to know.
Yeah, so it depends. There are some changes that unfortunately are not reversible, especially if you pick the blood pressure very late when end organ damage has happened, then the vessels are very stiff, then you may end up requiring medication lifelong. But if you pick this early, then most often you actually find that you're able to bring your pressure under control just by changing diet and adopting lifestyle. And many people have succeeded here. Just by diet and exercise alone, their pressure is normal. They say my pressure used to be high, but look at me now. My heart rate is like that of an athlete, not me. I'm talking about the people who've done it. And
yes.
There are very many success stories, yes, in this way. But the longer it goes, the harder it is to bring it under control using natural means. So
what's the worst case scenario of untreated hypertension? I know you've talked about sometimes vessels, there's a way that they get shrinked, right? So what's the worst case scenario?
The worst case scenario are the dramatic, sudden things like a stroke that causes death, because the blood vessels, imagine that you have a piping system, then the pipe bursts, same thing in the body. The pipe can burst in the brain, and if it bursts in a place that is catastrophic, that happens a lot. That's one of the worst. Second to that is you have end organ damage, irreversible end organ damage. The big organs are the heart in particular and the kidney. So at the heart you can get a heart attack, and you can also get the heart being enlarged in a way that it will fail. So you are 50 years old and you can't get up to walk. If you walk 2 steps, you're breathless because of high blood pressure. It's a really bad way to live. Then there's kidney failure, where you have to be on dialysis, look for transplant and so on because of high blood pressure. Then blindness, all these factors, these are really, can I say, and it's not hypothetical. There are people today who are watching this show who that's their reality, and there's a lot of I wish I knew. So this is sort of the message to those of us who get checked. Yeah, this is the time to avoid the I wish I knew story. And it's not very far. Sometimes I say it takes a long time. A long time is 20 years. You're 29 now. When you're 49, you're in hospital the whole time. You have to see the cardiologist every month. It's super expensive. Your life is not what it's supposed to be because of high blood pressure. Do something about it.
And that's your clarion call? That's
my clarion call.
All right. Thank you so much, Daktari, for making time for us. That is Dr. Victor Ngani, Medical Director, Dr. Rasik Kantaria, Jalara Medical Services. Thank you so much for making time. We've learned, and of course, as you can also tell from the feedback that you're receiving, people are interested to know more about hypertension. Thank you so much. We were to have feedback, and I wonder where Fred is. Let me go look for Fred. Daktari, just sit here.
Okay.
I will come back to release you.
Thank you.
Don't go too far.
I wonder what they're planning. Okay.
Yes, indeed. That has been a brilliant show. Minisha Toka Studio Kwanza. Have had very serious conversations today. Of course, what's happening in Nairobi with the handover, that deal signed, that cooperation deal signed between the county government of Nairobi and also, yes, there's Anne out of studio now.
Yes.
Join me now. I was just giving people the lowdown of what we've been talking about. Of course, the Nairobi discussion. Sifuna, Nifuna, Sifuna. Nifuna. Sifuna. And of course, that very insightful discussion about hypertension. I hope you've learned something. And that is what we give you every single day on Morning Cafe. Right. Of course, the conversation continues online. Absolutely. Our social media pages.
TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube. On X at TV47 Digital. You can tag us at @Dida.
At Fred in the Muli. And don't forget to use the hashtag Morning Cafe TV47. Tomorrow, 6 a.m., same time at TV47. Be there.
And get your blood pressure tested. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.